our next presenter, which is Nico Venter. And if he is here around, I think he's asked us to present for him.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity to form part of this wonderful discussion. Learning from one another is always something that I try to do on a daily basis, even if we have deadlines and all of those many things going around. So my presentation is quickly just going to be to inform you what's happening at the first year level within the EMS faculty, specifically business management, which is a generic management module, better known as MAN 132. So if we could move to the next slide. There's a wonderful selfie, ladies and gentlemen. Believe it or not, I took 15 tries to get a nice picture. So I hope you guys enjoy it. We can move to the next slide quickly. So what's happening at MAN 131? It's a generic module. So that means everybody within the BCom stream, BAdmin stream, every single first year within the EMS faculty will unfortunately be in one class. So that leads to a plus minus amount of 650 students. Remember, first years. These students come straight from school benches. Now, they don't know ICAMPA, they haven't seen the CAF due to COVID-19. So what we need to do as a lecturing team consisting out of 6 lecturers, we needed to stop and take a pause saying, how do we get this student coming from different walks of life comfortable with ICAMFA, to introduce to them what is ICAMFA, and also to making sure that we as a so-called lecturing team at the end of the day make sure that our students are comfortable with this new online environment, because they're not allowed on campus due to the lockdown rules and regulations. So not all students, when they were in high school, took business studies or economics or pure mathematics, to say the least. So we need to cater for all the different gaps that's sitting in front of us. You cannot assume that your business study student did pure maths at high school. Unfortunately, the school curriculum has changed and that assumption is no longer valid. So if we move to the next slide, I will show you what we have done within our sphere of ICAMFA. Now remember, these students are new to university life. It's a big gap. It's a first year module, so to speak. So ICAMFA is something brand new. So what we have done for our students is we try to make ICAMFA as well structured as possible. So on this slide, you will see under course resources, we used this so-called structuring of PowerPoint slides, assignments, all of those folders as nice and easy as possible for them to access. Because when I was a first year student at UWC, everything was just dumped there. There was no folders, there was no orientation. So for us as a lecturing team, it was vital that our students know exactly where to go, and making use of the Canva and the big blue button. So if we move to the next slide, you will see that we use the test and the quizzes function. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, ICAMFA is a wonderful team. Norina is on my speed dial, Caroline as well. When it comes to setting up quizzes and tests, formative and summative assessments, ICAMFA is perfect. So what we did for our first year students, remember, students are very, very creative. They have WhatsApp and Telegram, and they will answer and ask one another questions within a test. So how do you go to mitigate this? And as a team, we use the big question pool for, let's say, 100 questions within the pool. And if a student is writing a weekly quiz or a semester test, then within that 100 questions, we randomly then select 1 or 5 or 20 or 30 questions, meaning no question is being repeated to the student next to one another. So everybody gets a random sample. So that is something that we used, and we also used this test and quizzes to making sure that our students are not left behind. So if the chapter was discussed, there would have been a quiz on that as well. And we also use the test and quizzes not at the end of the semester, but throughout the semester, once again, incorporating in Canva and all of its tools for our students to give them a world-class experience. If we move on to the next one, the big blue button. When we started with COVID-19, there were some teething problems, but I can assure you, and all of you can also confirm maybe, that the big blue button is now back to its full strength. So what we've done is, remember, first year students coming from all walks of life, 600 plus students. So it's impossible to incorporate them all in one online session. So we do weekly recordings. Let's say on a Monday, the pre-recorded will be uploaded for our students. And that same week, Thursday, we have a live Q&A sessions, maybe 2 or 3 sessions for the day, where our students can ask live questions about the assignment, about the theory that was discussed. And that was really something that made us unique, because our students asked us, why isn't this something that's incorporated throughout our semester in the different modules? Because students also still wants to be live and ask questions, even if it's in this wonderful COVID-19 experience that we are all going through. So if we move on to the next slide, ladies and gentlemen, I would like for you to see the e-tool in full force. Once again, this is what you can see on eComfort. And here you will see on the PowerPoint slide, our tutorials and everything was digital. So that means if you registered late, and which is normally the case for online teaching, students will come with excuses saying they have registered late. Then it was easy for us to show them where's the tutorial, and for them to do the tutorial and still submit it, and we can grade it in a reasonable amount of time. So once again, just showing you that tutorials did take place even within hard lockdown, and now that the rules and regulations are lifted a little bit. We can also use tutorials not just within COVID, but also when we go back to hybrid learning, face-to-face learning as well. I don't think Man 131 will move away from the e-version and the e-tools, because tutorials are now more accessible, easier to submit, and very importantly, we are saving the planet one paper at a time by allowing our students to submit electronic versions instead of hard copies. And then on the next slide, you will see the challenges that we faced. So we're just not going to run through all of them, but something that was very alarming for us is the academic literacy that remains a problem. If we go back in time, 2019, when COVID started, all of those students that is now in our first year classes was unfortunately the victims of school being paused for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 7 weeks at a time, depending on where they were in high school, meaning a lot of critical contact session within the matric year was lost, and some of those gaps are present. So we as a lecturing team needed to do a lot of academic literacy prep as to, for example, tell the students how to read 525 million in numbers and not just in words. So that was one of our major challenges. And then also establishing a clear line of communication. WhatsApp was wonderful, Telegram was wonderful, but most importantly, we used the eComfort announcements to make sure that our students know what is expected of them, and if something was important or really serious that we needed to discuss, it would have been communicated via the eComfort announcement, making it a central hub for all communication. Tutorials was done via WhatsApp and all of those social media apps, just to make it a little bit more flexible for our students, as well as using the big blue button. So let's go on to the positive side of life, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking to the next slide is the benefits. I can definitely say, as a PhD candidate, I will not ever take anything for granted again. So COVID-19 has forced us as a lecturing team to making sure that this module and other modules that we are part of remain streamlined and effective and efficient when it comes to online learning. So it has inspired myself and the rest of my team to communicate to our students, once again, effectively and efficiently, not bombarding them with 10,000 emails on a daily basis, but making sure when we speak to our students that they know exactly what is it that we expect of them and what is the time frame. And then if we move to the second last point, looking at the formative and summative assessments, making sure that when we do the development of these, especially within the blended learning environment, it must remain easily accessible, but most importantly, easily relatable, using more African case studies, using more practical experiences of what our students are encountering on a daily basis was incorporated within this online space, hopefully making it a little bit more enjoyable and user-friendly for our students. And last but not least, having the pre-recorded videos is also something that will be staying with us in this module. Why? Because when a student, like I said, deregisters or registers late or whatever the case might be, there's always a recorded session available for them to use on the big blue button that is data sensitive. It doesn't cost them any data. So that is something that will be staying, and our live Q&A sessions might be recorded depending on the situation next year. Sometimes the students will then just ask for us to maybe record the session, but we will also explore that as well. So ladies and gentlemen, this has been my nutshell of what we are doing in a first year setting with our first year students coming from different streams. And I hope you've enjoyed this. If there's any questions, I will be answering it in the question box. Thank you very much.